in June. 2024 is officially half over. Can you believe it? And I was I was looking in my Facebook memories today. I said the same thing 11 years ago. I had posted, I cannot believe this year is half over. Like, well, it's, time's flying. Come on in. Hey, Ernie, how you doing? Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Glad you have survived the heat this week. And I think some people have gone out of town, but I'm glad you guys have made it here. We were talking about testimony service. I'm nearly tempted to ask if everybody's got a testimony now. All right, what's yours?
Let it go, and
Yeah.
we had a good time.
Right. Good, sure.
Jim, can I testify?
You can.
In honor of
Eddie,
my,
you can say anything you ever
in
want
honor
to.
of my grannies, both my grannies, Settles and Bratchers, my mama, my aunts, it's good to be in the house of the Lord.
Yes, it is.
It's good to feel the presence of the Holy Spirit,
Yes.
even as we get started. It's good when I look back over almost 70 years, all the times that God stood with
Go
me,
ahead.
walked with me,
Yep.
held me,
Yep.
let me continue.
Yep.
God is a good God this morning.
Yes, he is. No, and I felt that energy on you when you walked in. You brought light in with you when you came in. But yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is, even when we joke about stuff back in church world, we're joking about it with affection because we wouldn't be where we are today if we weren't there. So that's why if anybody ever asks me, "Are you Pentecostal?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, I believe in the gifts of the Spirit. Somebody asked me, "Are you that sounded word of faith?" I said, "I am word of faith. I do believe in speaking to the mountain." It's like those are just labels, and I love and honor every season that I've been in. This week, Howie was in town, and he was wanting to see some outdoor things in Atlanta, but it was just too hot. He was wanting to go to Arabian Mountain, which I've never been to. I mean, I've lived by it, but I've never been to. We got there. He said, it's just too hot to get out there. But we went to the Monastery of the Holy Spirit. And I went by the old church in the now property and showed him all of that. And he said, how do you feel when you drive in here? I said, proud of it and detached from it. It's like it was what it was. And I was that then. I'm this now. And you don't, as I always say, you don't have to hate the summer to love the fall. It's just seasons. I loved when my kids were babies. I loved that I don't have to change diapers now. It's like I rose the occasion, and that passed on. And you'll for whatever time you have left in this dimension, you'll enjoy it a lot more if you just learn the seasons. And even to the point. A couple of weeks ago, I went to my high school campus and was walking around. Y'all coming in? And, I loved my high school, but I'm sure, come in. I'm sure, like I was looking at places that I would have spent time in, and I thought, I only remember good stuff now. I'm sure there was a time I would have been sitting here worried about a term paper or, what was going to happen, am I going to the dance, or things that would have been important then that don't matter now. And I thought that's the way life is. Your seasons keep going, and even the stuff that you're concerned about today, it's just part of the season you're in. This time next year it won't even be a thing. I mean, there are probably things you were worried about last year that aren't even on your radar screen now. So there was my sermon. Thanks for coming. Happy 4th of July. Today is a blessed day. I'm just with what Eddie said. I just add that's the benediction. I mean, not the invocation for this morning. So we add our agreement to that. Let's do the Lord's Prayer. Please, Our Father who art in heaven, presence of divine love and light that lives within us and within all of life, hallowed be thy name. We invoke the powerful creative nature of all that is sacred and holy. Thy kingdom come. We embrace the healing essence that is the kingdom of heaven within us. Thy will be done. We accept our greatest good as we align with our divine nature, on earth as it is in heaven, knowing that the affairs of our lives reflect our evolving consciousness. Give us this day our daily bread. Each day we receive great blessings from within and throughout all the activities of our lives. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We accept the divine nature of all things and all people, including ourselves, as we move away from judgment and toward greater awareness of divine presence. And lead us not into temptation. We shall be vigilant in expressing and experiencing the oneness with all life. But deliver us from evil as we are learning to live without fault-finding and suffering. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. For we accept the consciousness of divine perfection with all its power and glory right here, right now, and forever. Amen. And so it is. Yay. Tell the person next to you there's nobody I'd rather sit beside than you. And then you may be seated. Again, good morning and welcome to those of you who are just now coming in. And I do have a good word for you today. Remember that our outreach this month is, once again, we're giving to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, Research Hospital. And I think you're all familiar with what they do. And I'm always happy on the months that we are able to sow into that. I would call it ministry. And also remember that Meditation Weekend number 23 is fast approaching. We're just about a month away from it. And it'll be here before you know it. And I am ready for it August 3rd and 4th on Driftwood Beach in Jekyll Island. If you are thinking about going, just stop thinking about it and just do it. Just go. It's our Metron's 10th anniversary. So it's going to be good. Driftwood Beach is magical, and you'll be glad that you went. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. Come in. Let's do a quick meditation if we can. Maestro, whoever. I call for music and it comes from somewhere. And let's just sit up straight, both feet on the floor. Get yourself into a posture of receptivity, a posture where energy can flow through you from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. We're going to become conscious of our breathing into the nose, hold it, and then out through the mouth. Inhale, hold, and exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Feel yourself relaxing. Feel yourself opening up to the Word today. Inhale. Exhale. For those of you that came with questions today, those of you that need direction, open up your heart right now, because the God inside you has the answer. And if you'll get quiet and centered today, that inner voice, that secret place of the Most High, will speak to you. Inhale. Exhale. Now I'm going to not speak for a minute. Just let yourself relax. Those of you that are streaming online, you can do that wherever you are. Let's just be. Just let your thoughts settle down. You're here. Stay in the flow. We'll do a few more minutes. Just focus on the light. It is written that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. It is written that the light shines in darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not, cannot overtake it. It is written that the Creator said, "Let there be light," and there was light. We are filled with light and peace and the glory of the Lord that is risen upon us. And as we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. The word we hear today, the word that guides us from our own inner person, is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom then shall I be afraid? So today we're at peace. We're in the flow. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon us. The Lord our God in the midst of us is mighty. God is real and God is here. And God is manifesting as the Christ where two or more are gathered together in his name. And even as we've talked about testimonies earlier, we say along with the psalmist, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all of your iniquities, who heals all of your diseases, who satisfies your mouth with good things so that your youth is renewed like the eagles." Let's make these affirmations. I am peaceful. I am peace. I am. I am blessed. I am a blessing. I am. I am healthy. I am health. I am. I am whole. I am wholeness. I am. I am free. I am freedom. I am. Now give me 3 more good breaths and we'll come out of it. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe deeply. Get the oxygen. Get your lungs filled with it. Inhale. Exhale. Let the oxygen fill up to your brain. Inhale. And exhale. Just one more for good measure. Inhale. Hold it. And exhale. Beautiful. That was a good one. Lights, please. That's amazing. You can just say a word and lights appear. I never take it for granted. Yeah.
And the breathing, I've been doing a lot with God and a lot with Alan. So every time I made an adoration, it was major. We have peace. We have hope. Everything you said, it told me that it just hit me today that every affirmation I made, it was because we're one. So I did it.
Yeah.
I just felt that.
Beautiful. If you didn't hear what Rhonda said, just bottom line is the affirmations are real. That's the essence of what she was saying. And even making it for her husband, her point is because we're one flesh, when I make that affirmation for me, I make it for us. Yeah, I understand that. I get that. We're all connected. You know, I've gotten to where now every time I hear anybody having any kind of miracle at all, I get excited for myself because I think, oh, something's in the atmosphere today. It's going to be a miracle day. And I start looking for mine. Like, all right, you got yours, where's mine? And it never occurs to me to be jealous of somebody. On the contrary, it's inspirational to me. I'm like, oh, okay, good. You mean it's like a miracle Monday? Cool. And it actually sets my expectation to start seeing miraculous intervention in my own life. Which kind of in a way is a segue to what I want to talk about today. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you from the Atlanta Theater in the Kirkwood neighborhood of Atlanta, Midtown adjacent. Metron people, would you give the podcast people a big hand and welcome them? Hello, hello. As always, we thank Charles McFall, the rock god of podcasting. Yes, there is a Charles McFall. Never say that he doesn't exist. He exists. He's real. He's behind the curtain up there, but he's real. And as always, we appreciate Michelle, who really is the other part of my voice, because I use the screen so much. It's very similar. With a relationship I have with Michelle is very similar to relationships I've had with interpreters when I'm in foreign countries. It's like you become one with them because they're part of the communication process, and communication is important. So we thank God for all of our tech team, of course, Avery, you know everybody that's here helping out, and of course BJ. I'm surrounded by good people, and I've expressed gratitude for every one of you when I'm driving over here. I'm just very, very honored and blessed to have all of you in my life, especially those of you that have been with me for a minute. As you get older, those relationships that have gone the distance with you actually become sweeter. It's like fine wine. And just want you to know I never take you for granted. This is what I want to talk about today. And I am aware and unapologetic that I seem to be on this wavelength a lot. Hold that thought. I believe, let's try to put that on there. I believe, for those of you that are listening, I was trying to screw the cap of the water back on the microphone. Which, by the way, I'm aware, Avery, that you get the ones that says flow on there. No detail goes unnoticed. I appreciate it. I talk a lot on this sort of subject that I'm going to say some things today I have not said before. Believe it or not, that's still possible. After 54 years of doing this every week of my life, I still come up with new things to say, whether you think I do or not. I went in yesterday to the Starbucks, and the barista, is that what they're called? He came up, he said, "Vinny, iced coffee, extra ice, no classic, 2% milk." I said, "Yeah, but I'm also going to get a croissant today." I said, "You didn't see that coming. You thought you had me figured out. Just when you thought I was predictable, I pulled a croissant." He said, "Well done. Well played." So just when you think, like, dear God, if he tells that story one more time, I come up with a revelation that totally changes your life. You know it does. You've tried to leave me. It's like Brokeback Mountain. Y'all are like, I wish I could quit you. No, you can't. You can't quit me because I'm all up in your grill. I'm your pastor whether you like it or not. Some people say, I didn't choose you to be my pastor. I'm like, baby, I didn't choose you to be my sheep. It was the Lord's doing. I ain't any more excited about you than you are about me. This is a God thing. No, I'm excited about y'all. Anyway, here's what I'm titling this today. The power of letting it be, manifesting the miraculous without manipulation or micromanagement. Let me tell you why I believe this is important. It seems like with every conversation that I have, the conversation, even if it's not technically counseling appointment, my conversations just end up counseling appointments. Like I told you, I've referred to this a couple of times, but in apologizing to Howie for venting one day, he said, I don't care. He said, I even learn stuff when you vent. He said, when you're venting, you're in teaching mode. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take that compliment. But every conversation I have sort of ends up, because of the way where everybody is, with what everybody's dealing with, and I know in my helping other people, I'm also speaking to myself. I'm very aware of that. And let me just go ahead and, this is what they call burying the lead, is when you go ahead and tell what this is about before I get to the end of it. I'm going to declare the end from the beginning. This is very difficult to admit, and you have to be a grown-up. Leona, if you can hear us, I'm still speaking to grown-up people. You have to be a grown-up to accept this. And I say this with no accusation at all, because I'm not an accuser. I'm a liberator. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me to preach liberty to the captives. So if I tell you a hard truth, it's to set you free. And the truth is this. Come in, Crystal. Good to see you. I am aware that the things I have suffered in my life, I have played an enormous role in the creation of that suffering. Now, not everybody can bear that. I wish I didn't know it. I'm not saying stuff that happens to you is your fault. That's not even in my. What I'm saying is, the things that happen to us are about 10% of our problems. Our reactions to the things that happen to us comprise about 90% of the suffering. It's not what happened to you, it's how you dealt with it, how you thought about it, how it impacted you, how it triggered you. You have played, we have played, I'm saying it first. You know, Paul wrote to one of the churches and he said, I'm the chiefest of sinners among you. So I'm willing to say, I can look back on things that were just seemed really devastating to me. And I think, you know, yes, that did happen, but your reaction to it made it way worse than it should have been. And so I have learned, I use the word micromanagement a lot because I think micromanaging a problem makes the problem worse than it should be. And when I say micromanage, I mean when something's just occupying your mind till it nearly becomes an obsession and you can't stop thinking about it, you can't stop talking about it. It comes up in every conversation. I know I've done that before. I've done that recently because I went through a very hard time getting my mom into this phase that we're in now. And for those of you that were around me, and a lot of you were recipients of it here, I couldn't stop talking about it because I was living in something really, really hard. And there's a human need that we have to express what we're going through. But you also have to know when that expression is becoming counterproductive. It's like, all right, you've made your point. Yes, this is difficult, but now you're making it. Let me give you two examples. The first one is gross. When I was a teenager, I never had bad skin, but once in a while there would be something that appeared on my face at the most inopportune times, like right before senior prom or something. And I could always remember one of my parents saying, leave that alone. But I could not. And if any of you have ever, and I'm not going to get too graphic about it, but where now you've done something where it's swollen and infected, and you're like, you know what? If you had just kept your fingers off it, it would not have been a deal. Now you have made something that wasn't even that noticeable to anybody else. You've made it noticeable. It looks like from your reactions, you were a teenager as well. And then as I got older, I learned just let that run its course and don't interfere with something that's naturally happening to someone your age. It's not the end of the world. You're 16 years old. Every other 16-year-old looks like this. What just is what it is. That's when you're getting older and hopefully more mature, is you realize not everybody's looking at you, and they're not they're not obsessing over what you look like. The other one that's a little more palatable is, and I at least have learned this, but on more than one occasion, I have been up all night painting for someone. And I don't paint as much as I do. I've got 2 commissions. They should have been finished last week, but I'll get back on them. But I can't tell you the times I've basically finished. There was a couple of things like I still need to paint the sides and do a couple of things before I take it to get a wire put on it. But for the most part, it's done. And I keep looking at it and think, yeah, but you know what would look really good if I did this thing? And then I do this thing many times at 3 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, now I can't stay up at 3 o'clock like I used to. So it's actually helped with this. People say, why have you quit doing 11:11? It's because I just kind of have not been up to it lately. I'm like, I've got a word, but can I just give it to y'all from the bed? I never thought that would happen to me. But I'm also getting up earlier. That's the thing. It's like, why am I up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock? What's up with this? I think it's something that happens with age. I don't know. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you just go with it and you get stuff done. Yeah, totally. So, but on more than one occasion, I added something, and then I think, oh, I should have done that. And then I try to fix it, and it makes it worse. I can't tell you how many times I've just had to scrap something. I'm like, you ruined it. You just ruined it. You're out the money that, the paints and the canvas. I just had to go buy new and start, because the more I tried to fix it, the worse it got. And then it's like 4:30, and you're like, why didn't you just leave it alone? I've learned now what I call the inner sergeant, that voice in me. It may be the Holy Spirit. I don't know. It may be me. Maybe we're the same. I don't know. But I literally will hear, I'm not schizophrenic, but I will literally hear the voice. I will hear something in me say, put that brush down, leave it alone. As a matter of fact, turn the easel around and don't look at it for a few hours. Go to bed and look at it tomorrow, because it's fine like it is. And is it OCD? I don't know. Something in me like, I know, but it would just be so much better if I just did that. And then think, oh, snap. I just ruined it. And that's spelled R-U-R-N-T. You can survive a blemish on your face. You can get a new canvas and do another painting. you can manipulate and micromanage a thing that should have never become that big a deal until now it's become a big deal. And it can be a problem in your life. Now, having said that, let me show you the scripture that seems completely unrelated to what I'm talking about, and then I will connect the dots. It is Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 and 8. This is in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount when he says, knock and it should be open to you, ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, for everyone that knocks. Okay, even people who have never read the Bible are familiar with that. Here's what it says in the Amplified Bible. It says, ask and keep on asking, and it will be given to you. Seek and keep on seeking, and you will find. Knock and keep on knocking, and the door will be open to you. For everyone who keeps on asking receives, and he who keeps on seeking finds, and to him who keeps on knocking it will be open. Now, there's two ways to interpret this. Is he saying, find a door and knock on it 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 until it finally opens? There is scriptural precedent for that. Jesus gave two parables. One was about a man that had closed his house for the night, and a friend comes to him and keeps knocking, saying, can you give me something to eat? The man says, I and my household are in bed. And he says, but because the man keeps knocking, the guy gets out of bed and gives him something. And then one is Luke chapter 11, one is Luke chapter 18. It's the woman who goes to the unjust judge, and she keeps saying, avenge me of my adversary. And the judge says, this woman's driving me crazy, and she's a bulldog. She's relentless. She's not going to let it go. So that's what we were taught in the old days was importunate prayer. It's the kind of in the old school days they used to say get a hold of the horns of the altar. The idea was praying a thing through. Then you got the laws of attraction people who come along and say detachment is important. That you put out an intention and then you don't try to micromanage it. It's like blowing a bubble and you release it. And you know if you once you've made the intention, if you try to manipulate it, you could destroy it. Where is the truth? The truth is somewhere between those two polarities. When I read this, knock and keep on knocking, I don't think it necessarily means keep knocking at that same door. The way I interpret it is you're looking at a series of doors. One of them will have the answer, and you keep on knocking until one of them opens. Now, it may not mean all the time the same thing. Sometimes this is why you need to walk in the Spirit. There's something in you that says, I can't let this thing go. I've got to pursue this. I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to stand in faith. There's a case to be made for that. There's also a time when you realize I'm putting too much energy on this thing, and I need to diversify. You know, in Ecclesiastes where he says, it's chapter 3, I think, he says, or maybe it's chapter 11, I don't remember. He says, cast your bread on the water and it will come back on every wave. That doesn't make sense. Like that, planting a seed and it bringing a harvest, that makes sense. But just throwing bread on the water, how is that a promise about prosperity? You just give a lot of soggy bread. If you read the previous verse, he's talking about exports. He says, send out 7, yea, 8 ships, and fill them with bread. And he's basically saying, throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. One of those 8 ships, something will come back. Don't put all of your hope in one ship, in one, just get focused on something. Like, for instance, if somebody comes to me and says, Bishop, I've got this job interview tomorrow, and I've got to get this job. Agree with me. I've got to get this job. And I will say, and some people get offended at me. I'll say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll agree that you'll have a great interview, that you'll bring your A game, but I don't want to agree. The power of my agreement is significant. I mean, I can steer a thing in a certain way because some gravitas I have in the Spirit. So before I just throw out my agreement, I need to say that this may not even be your dream job. Let's say give the best interview possible, but this job may be about something else, or something else might open up. And if you get too focused on this one thing, you might be aiming too low. So there's, all that scriptural ideology to say, hold on and pray a thing through and don't give up. Certainly something to be said for that. Also, there's the whole concept of the keys, plural, to the kingdom. I've used that analogy a lot, that one of these keys will unlock the door. So you can say a lot of different things about it. Let me show you this second thing. This is just a quote that I think is a nice counterweight to this thing that Jesus said. This just says, I walk through doors that open with ease. Those I must force are not mine to enter. Now, I've gone through things in my life that's absolutely the truth. I remember, I'm sure I've shared this with you, but years ago, I was doing a ministry thing with Mark Sharona in Florida, and somehow he opened up for questions and answers, and I was involved with it. And this woman stood up, and she said, I want to ask both of you I'm praying that my ex-husband and I will get back together. How long, I've been standing in faith for a really, really long time. How long should I believe for this before I finally just realize it's time to move on? So she gave the question to me, and I said, well, is your husband remarried? She goes, yeah, he's remarried. I said, well, that's going to be problematic. I said, how long ago were you divorced? 30 years ago. I said, ma'am, I'm going to say this as kindly as I can, but you might have wasted about 30 years of your life for something that you should have moved on from. She said, I just believe you can pray a thing through. I said, I don't know, 30 years. I mean, I think the Holy Ghost himself would be like, stop being a sucker. Like the guy's been married and had grandkids with this other woman, and you're still standing in faith. Look, if you need to heal over a hard relationship, go get some therapy, but don't channel that energy into standing in faith for something, because that's just insanity. So if you look at I'm going to knock on the door and keep on knocking until it opens, there's a time for that, and then there's a time when that becomes obsession. There is a time to move on. I always remember that story about when they lost the baby, and he was prostrate with grief, and the prophet comes and says, it's time for you to wash your face and get up and move. And any of you that have ever been through a horrible breakup or the loss of a loved one, there's a part of you that will always be affected by it, but there's also a part of you that had to go on. And you can remember when that day was where you said, I can't grieve this anymore. Or if I'm gonna grieve it, I've got to incorporate that grieving into, my lifestyle and become proactive about it. But just for my life just shutting down because of especially when it's relationships, when it's somebody that's clearly gone on with their life, and you've just stopped with yours, there's, at some point you got to have some self-respect and say, I can't keep grieving this thing that's clearly over, even if it was my fault. I've got to say, it was what it was. I can't keep knocking on this door. I don't even think it's a door anymore. I think it's a wall, and I'm just knocking on the wall, and it's not ever going to open. So what's that got to do with learning to let a thing be? I say this to you a lot. I'm going to say it again tonight, because I'm telling you, again, every conversation I have lately reiterates to me how this is kind of where everybody lives. I nearly titled this today the most important message I've ever taught. I actually considered that, because I think it's the most relevant to where everybody lives. there's a fine line between neutrality and surrender. Neutrality is when you just say, I have no control over anything. I'm just going to, the wind's just going to blow me wherever it's going to blow, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I think that's a dangerous place to be, because then you're never intentional in your life. And sometimes you have to steer the ship. You have to set your face like a flint, which means like an arrow shot out of the bow. But then surrender can feel like neutrality, but it's not. Surrender is actually an intentional action, because it's saying there's nothing else I can do about this situation. I have done all that I could, but now I'm going to let it go. I'm going to read to you. This is a meditation I wrote, I guess, last week. I'm going to read it to you because first is this Roy T. Bennett. I actually used this quote at the beginning of the meditation, but let me share it with you. He says, instead of worrying about what you cannot control, shift your energy to what you can create. That's everybody should say that to themselves every morning of their lives, because we seem to get stuck on obsessing over what we can't control. Now, I use that, but here's what I wrote in the meditation. Chill out. Whatever you're anxious and or worried about today, you have to remind yourself, because you already know this, that however the thing is ultimately going to unfold, you're worrying about the factors involved over which you have no control will do absolutely nothing to actually change the outcome of the thing. Like sometimes when you're worrying about a thing, you feel like you're being responsible, and you're not. Once you've done all of your due diligence and all of your preparations, you still have limited control over how your plans will ultimately play out in the real world, truth be told. So the healthiest attitude is to be confident about your excellent advanced planning and simply choose to not fret about the aspects over which you have no say or authority. In other words, and I'm quoting Paul to the Philippians, having done all to stand, stand. Meaning, if you've done all, you've done all. All means all. There's nothing else you can do. And let me say, standing is not necessarily letting go. Standing is just saying, I've done all. Whatever's going to happen now is going to happen. Planning is certainly a very important part of being intentional in life, but it's very often the case that even when you have planned well, circumstances can intervene that change the flow of your well thought out designs. The good news is that change does not necessarily mean disaster. Sometimes things turn out exceedingly abundantly or better than you can ask or think. That's Ephesians 3:20. Just think of times past when your carefully orchestrated plans ran amok and you felt helpless and overwhelmed, but somehow plan B turned out fine, maybe even better than plan A, and all your worrying was an exercise in futility. You have to constantly find that sweet spot between decreeing a thing and letting go and letting God. It's a balancing act that everyone has to learn to perform to be successful in life. Just remember that surrender is not neutrality. You should be intentional. You should have a vision of how you want things to unfold. You should plan your work and then work your plan. Just do your thing and stop the insanity of worrying about the outcome of it all. This is one of my favorite lines I've ever written. The only thing worry changes is you, and not for the better. Like you keep thinking worrying about it's going to change the thing. It doesn't. It just changes you. It changes your health. It changes, and it's always negative. Nothing good comes from it. Take care of your business today and then relax and enjoy your weekend. Everything is going to work out just fine. I remember, Christina, she's turned out to be such a brave woman, but as a little girl, we would go through this thing with her, like she'd want to go to Six Flags, and I'd stand in a line to get on the screen machine or something. We'd get up there, and she'd freak out. And and sometimes I'd force her to ride it, And I thought somebody's defects is going to take her away from me. But I'm like, we've stood in this line for 2 hours. You're going to ride this thing, or I'm riding it with you. And one day, I don't even know if this is still open, but they used to have this water park up north of Atlanta. I don't even remember the name of it. But we'd gone to this. It's one of those things where you have to climb up on this. It's like a roller coaster, but it's water, and you have a inner tube. But like little kids aren't allowed to go by themselves. We climbed all the way up to the top, and I was getting in my tube, putting her in my lap. Or no, she was in her own little tube, but we were going to be connected. I was going to hold on to hers. And she's crying and freaking out. I said, Christina, it's fine. I'm going to be with you the whole time. I'm holding on to your tube. Well, in the middle of our jostling, she just took off. I just watched her. I could just see her little blonde curls going over. And there's nothing I could do. I'm like, hold on. And she's screaming. And I mean, I didn't know, like, this, maybe my last words with her would be yelling at her. And there's nothing I could do about it. And the whole way I finally got in and rode down, God, I hope she's still alive. I hope I don't see her little body floating. Because, I mean, it was a huge ride. Got to the bottom, she's floating in her inner tube laughing, because that was the funnest thing I ever did. And it actually kind of taught me something after I went to see the paramedics, because I had a cardiac arrest. Because, I mean, I just thought she'll never survive it. Bye. And as recently as when I was in Santa Fe the other day, she was telling me about things in her life. I said, look, there's certain things I could advise you on, but I have learned in watching you throughout life not to worry about you. You seem to always figure it out. Even when you take a path that would not be what I would have chosen for you, it seems to have worked out for you. So I can't worry about you anymore. I'm here if you need me. But the only advice I will ever give you is I'm not going to give unsolicited advice. And if you like the trajectory you're on, then I have to say, this is what time my plane lands, and I'm going to enjoy the whole time that you're here. And it was an interesting time. I said, you're twice divorced, going to be 40 next year. I have to assume you figured it out. And she's surrounded by men that adore her. One that she's going into business with, that I can tell, like, I said, Christina, this guy's in love with you. I mean, I hope everything's going to work out. Well, she says, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We go to dinner that night, the real high-end restaurant. The maitre d' comes out, could not have been nice. He's bringing all this stuff to the table we didn't ask for. He's super charming. Finally, I said, Julia, do you treat all of your customers like this? It's incredible. And he said, well, I have a question to ask you. I said, what? He said, can I have your daughter's hand in marriage? I said, oh, Lord. Y'all going to have to work that one out. I mean, I was impressed. I said, Julian, I'll marry you. I mean, this has been incredible. The service here has been unbelievable. And I just thought, well, you know what? I don't know what's in store for her in the future, but I'll be on board with it, because I remember seeing her little inner tube take off, and she didn't drown. So I think she'll end up okay somehow. And, if you've got kids, especially if you've been through some stuff with your kids, you have to learn that. You have to say, I've done all I can in parenting. I've done all I can. And whatever happens now is on them, and I'm going to find the parts of their adult life that I enjoy and enjoy being with them. And that's the season I'm in with all four of my children, because I'm very involved in their lives. I have dinner with my sons every Wednesday night, and I don't advise them and tell them what they should do or mistakes they've made. I had a father that was, he came from that school that says, if I'm silent, that means you're doing everything okay. If I give you advice, it means you're not. And he always gave me advice. Like, nothing but advice and criticism. I wish I could say I remember differently, but that's how he parented. I'm assuming that's how his father parented. That's why Jonah and Sophie have a little house close to where Eddie lives, and it's a cool little house, and I think a good buy for them. But when he asked me to go see it, I had already determined I'm going to say this is the best house I've ever seen, even if it's not. Fortunately, it was. But when I walked in, I was like, oh, my God, this is the most amazing house I've ever seen. Why? Because I had a father who every house I ever bought walked in and told me the mistake I'd made. You can't afford this house, And so it didn't change anything. It just made me not want to invite him over. I'm like, I've already bought it. So now, whatever my kids buy, if they bought a yurt out in the desert, I'd be like, yurts rock. Now, that might not be your parenting skill, but I have determined for the rest of my kids' life, I'm just going to be their friend. And I may be a voice in their life, and I can tell some of y'all are like, you don't know my kid, baby. I could tell you some stories. You might have been through some stuff. Honey, I have too. And what I'm saying is that's the way you kind of have to be with everything in your life. It's like, well, I've done everything I know to do, and so for the rest of it, I'm just going to have to maybe just enjoy my life. Because before I share the rest of what I'm going to share, let me just say this. The majority of things that upset you, if you will disconnect from trying to micromanage it, most things are going to work out on their own. The majority of things in your life, Psalm 138:8, the Lord will perfect that which concerns you. The majority of things in your life are prone to work out. It's your fighting a thing because you have a different vision. Well, my kids didn't turn out the way I wanted them to. Well, maybe they turned out the way they were supposed to. Here's a thought. Maybe you're just a father or a mother. You're not God. Am I getting too real? I feel like I'm a senior. I'm an elder in the church. I'm a father of adult children and have grandchildren. I feel like I have a right to say some things. And I can tell you, most things in your life are going to work out if you'll just stop freaking out about stuff, stop talking about what is, and talk about what you want to happen. And I have not done that in recent months. I am getting better about it. Now, I went to my uncle's funeral Friday, and most people begin a conversation with, "How's your mom doing?" in her place, and I usually respond with, "I'm trying to talk about what I want to happen instead of what is happening. So in light of that, we're getting better. She's finding her stride. It's getting better." Because I'm tired of talking about what's happened. Every bit of it has been true, but it's like, good God. I know people are tired of hearing about it because I'm tired of talking about it. So now, you can communicate that something's been difficult by saying, it's getting better. We're getting there. You don't have to tell all your business. You can just say, it's been a journey, and I don't know how the whole thing's going to turn out either. I know that my God supplies all my need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. And sometimes you have to wait until the need is there without what's the word? Having advance. What's the word I'm trying to think of? When you're, I guess I'll say, catastrophizing a situation. And now I want to tell you some other things, but just let me finish this, and then I'm going to do some real talk. I like this quote. Sometimes the best thing you do is not think, not wonder, not imagine, not obsess. Just breathe and have faith that everything will work out for the best. Next one. This Karen Casey quote I like. It says, detachment is simply watching the events that are unfolding around you, getting involved only when your journey is part of the experience. You don't have to have an opinion about everything. You don't have to have an opinion about everything that's going on in everybody's life. This is a small thing, but I think small things are big things. Howie was in town. We went, I told you, we went Monday. He stayed somewhere in Conyers. And I showed him some things around there. And he said, I had planned on going outside because he likes to, he goes to all these historical places and he posts pictures of it. He's not even doing his blog so much now, but that's what he does, and it's a service he provides, and it's cool. That's his thing. And I'm into it. I mean, when I'm with him, I like seeing historical stuff, and it's I love stuff like that. But he said, I don't know what we're going to do the rest of the day because I had taken this day off, but I just wasn't expecting Georgia to be this hot. He said, he lives in Florida. He said, it's hotter here than it is in Florida. I said, it probably is. So he said, what do you want to do tonight? I said, why don't we do this? You've never been to Manuel's Tavern. He wanted to go there because that's a historical place, and he had read about it in a novel, and he's a big lover of Jimmy Carter, and that was one of Jimmy Carter's favorite places. So why don't you go wherever you're going to stay tonight? He said, I'm going to stay down by the airport. I said, well, go get in your room. I'll come pick you up for dinner, and we'll go to Manuel's Tavern, and we'll just see what happens after that. There may be some local places around here you haven't seen. For the most part, over the years, I've kind of showed you everything there is to see, but we'll just play it by ear. So we go to Manuel's. It's great. The food's great. He loves it. It's I'm showing him historical things on the wall, and we're talking about people we know, and somehow my friend Jeff Ferguson comes up in conversation. And I said, well, you've met him, haven't you? He said, no, I've never met him. I've always wanted to meet him. I said, I thought for sure you had met him. I haven't seen Jeff in over a year. He was a little over a year ago. He travels with Reba, and they minister together. He was in town a little over a year ago. I don't think we've even texted since then. When they were in town last year, he texted me, he said, let's have dinner. Okay, so I met him and Reba for dinner. Last I've heard from him. We're sitting there. We finish up the bill, the meal, and get the bill. And I'm thinking, well, it's still early. What are we going to do? He had just said, yeah, I'd like to meet Jeff sometime. I looked at my phone and said, you're not going to believe what I'm about to read to you. Hi, Jamerl, it's Jeff. I'm in town. He does books for Benny Hinn and all these people. Like, that's his journey. Like, namaste. I don't have an opinion. Let me tell you something about life. When you'll disconnect from having opinions about everybody, you can just enjoy people so much more. I even think Jeff's probably a Trump supporter. I'm like, we probably don't need to talk about that. Is what it is. Whatever I say ain't going to change you. And you minister with white evangelicals all the time, so I'm sure that's the world you live in. Is what it is. But I'm sitting there with Howie thinking, what are we going to do for the rest of the evening? Jeff texts me, says, hey, I'm in town. Can we meet? And I said, you're not going to believe this. We were just talking about you. We just finished dinner. Where are you? I'm at Lenox Square. Meet me at Opry Diem. There's a room there where we used to do a communion thing. It's quiet, and we'll get a glass of wine. We'll go talk. Perfect. So we go meet him. There's nobody in the whole lounge. We have the whole evening. Now you say, well, that's a small thing. I don't know. It's kind of, if it's not a miracle, it's miracle adjacent, because we were just sitting there saying, well, what are we going to do? I mean, I could have taken him down the street where we used to live, but I mean, you don't want to go see that. It couldn't have been better. It was like, it was perfect. And when they met, Jeff said to Hal, he said, I know you, don't I? I said, no. You have no idea how synchronistic this is. Even the fact that you texted as soon as we finished dinner. What it said to me is, this is just a small thing. I mean, Howie and I would have been fine just to sit there and talk and say goodnight. I mean, you know, like that would have been fine. But like, this is just a small little reminder from the universe. Stuff will happen if you'll not micromanage everything. Now, we had a plan. I said, I'll drive down, pick you up. We'll have dinner. So we weren't just, it's not like I said, I'm going to go home and you go to your hotel, and if God does something. You know, we didn't do that. We did make a plan. But we didn't micromanage it because there wasn't anything to manage. Like, I didn't have a vision past dinner. And then it turned out to be this amazing evening. And there are several things that Jeff said in the conversation that I could have said, I have an opinion about that. But I thought, you know what? I don't care. Whatever you believe what you're going to believe. Let's talk about the good, because I have good memories with him. We laughed, and it was fun, and it was a reminder to me, if you'll just keep it a little bit loose, good stuff will happen. Which brings me to this final thing. And I'm going to say some stuff about this, but Anne Lamott says this. I love Anne Lamott. She says, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Now, I believe y'all are all grown enough to hear what I'm going to say without reading more into it than I'm saying. I watched the debate. It was a dumpster fire, no doubt about it. Here are my thoughts on it as it relates to this. Like, I remember, especially when I was an active bishop who had a lot of young ministers that I mentored. Many times sometimes a young woman, mostly young men, would come to me, and they were going to preach their first sermon, and they would tell me all about it, and they would show me their notes and tell me the hours they've spent on it, and I want to make sure I say this right, and I would give them some feedback, and I'd say that you've done some good work, but let me just tell you this: if you've got a word from the Lord, don't overstudy it, because you're going to lose the feeling you have about it. And I'm going to say something to you that's going to sound superficial, but it's not. Concentrate on how you feel about ministering more than your material. Now, if studying your material gives you more confidence, then that's fine, but tap into the confidence. It's not the amazing sermon you have. It's got to be something that you bring in your energy. People say, well, the message isn't about me. Oh, yeah, it is. You are the message. You're not just the messenger. You're the message. I shared this with you when I did a couple months ago when I participated. Some of y'all were there in my cousin D.E.'s consecration. Michael Beckwith spoke, and he didn't say anything that I haven't heard before. It was his delivery. It was his energy. It was the way he brought the way he was pounding on the pulpit and kicking up his leg, and I watched him. We were walking into the service. He took something, it was B12 or whatever it was. I mean, it wasn't just the anointing. It was something that perked him up, and I'm like, well, it worked for me. It got my attention. Jonah said, I watched the streaming of it. He said, you were leaning forward listening to him. I said, well, partly it's because I couldn't understand what he was saying because behind him. But yeah, I was kind of into, you're selling me on what you're saying because of the way you're saying it. It's not the saying itself. I know over the years, I would study and come, put all this time in a message, and I come out and people would be like, yeah, whatever. There's other times just because I felt really good, I'd come out and go, and people are like, oh my God, that was the greatest thing we've ever heard. I mean, I know it wasn't quite that much, but it was like, that's how easy it was because it was my energy that people were tapping into. What's that got to do with the debate? All right. Candidates debate. That's part of the thing. For some reason, Joe Biden asked for this, and I think it was largely because Donald Trump keeps saying he has dementia and he's old. So he was saying, well, all right, well, he basically dared him. If you think I do, then let's go. And unfortunately, it backfired on him. I'm not here to say whether he does or doesn't have dementia. I don't think he has dementia. He's definitely showing his age. There's no doubt about that. And Donald Trump is only 36 months younger than him. So they're both old men. I'm fine with saying, and I'm not an ageist, I'm a senior citizen myself, but you have to be at least 35 to run for president. I'd say, well, let's make 75 or 70 the cutoff. I think that makes sense to spare us this. But can they just replace him? No, I don't think we're set up for that. He could leave the race, but who knows what's going to happen. That's not my point. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Because I knew as soon as I saw him shuffling out there, I thought he's made a mistake. If they didn't ask me, I know y'all can't believe it. If they had asked me, I would have said, if Donald Trump wants to debate you, you should say, no, he's a convicted felon and tried to run an insurrection against the government and overthrow a legitimate vote. I'm not going to dignify that's what you should have said. But you didn't. You asked for it, and it backfired. What's that got to do with this? This is what I think. The last few months, Biden has been on a nonstop international flight. Every time because I watch the news, not all day, every day, but a big chunk of my day, I watch the news. And he is flying over the ocean constantly. And I know he's used to that and he's done it all his life, but I can tell you, long flights take a lot out of you. They just do. There's a thing, it's not CoQ10, it's something else. It's something that's in your body that just flying in general depletes you of. And, he's risen to the occasion. He went to France just the other day and did the D-Day thing, and that was great. And he definitely, on more than one occasion, has surprised his critics. But when I heard they were going to do this, and they had him holed up at Camp David for 6 days, cramming him with information, I thought, you're making a mistake. Because you're going to go debate, I'm sorry, a pathological liar. I'm sorry, he just is. There are over 30,000 documented lies that he told during his administration. I am not anti-conservative, but Donald Trump is a liar. He just is. His followers don't care. Many of them are in the ministry. They don't care. They know it. The thing about a pathological liar is they know that they're lying to you and will still lie to you. So when I heard that they were doing all this debate prep, I thought they're making a mistake. If you're going to debate this guy, what they should have done is let him get off those flights, go to the beach, sit there in the sun. You know what you're going to say. Just come out there all fired up and say, this man's a convicted felon, and just, get it, just get down there with him. Because in his world, facts and figures don't matter. There's actually a thing, you can Google this, it's called the Gish Gallop. And it's when you just do so many rapid fire lies in short sequence that your opponent is disoriented and doesn't have time to come back on it. Trump knows lying better than anything else. So he can be, like rapid fire. I'm telling this is not a political statement. I'm telling you, I've voted Republican more than I've voted Democrat in my life. That man's a liar. He just is. And he can do it so rapid fire that you don't even have time to fact check him. So if you're going to do it, what you should have done, like for instance, I've been watching these debates for years. Way back in the day, now I don't remember this personally, but when Kennedy debated Nixon in 1960, the people who listened to the debate on the radio said that Nixon won because he had his facts and figures. The people who watched it on television, which this is the first time a presidential debate had been, there's a reason why I'm telling you, it has to do with my sermon. Just hang on. And if this makes you nervous, I'm speaking politically, bring it up here because you're missing my point if you think this is a political statement. This is to help you. The people who watched it on TV said that Kennedy won. You know why? Because he looked better. He looked, he had, the thing about Kennedy, he took all these, Kennedy was actually very sick. But the stuff he took, like the steroids he took, actually made his look like he'd been out on the beach, which he probably had been. But he looked very tanned and rested and youthful and vigorous. And Nixon looked dour, and he had a 5 o'clock shadow, and he just looked. And so it wasn't the facts and figures that won that debate. It was Kennedy looked like he could handle it. Same thing, 1980. When in 76, when Carter was running, all you saw was teeth. Jimmy Carter, teeth, and he was positive, and, well, then he goes and debates Reagan, and he's very serious and looked disturbed, and Reagan's just, the thing that won Reagan's landslide was one statement. Every time Jimmy Carter would say something, Reagan would go, "There you go again." And he endeared himself to the audience. When you're watching it, you couldn't kind of help but root for him because he came across relaxed, and he looked like he had risen to the occasion. When I'm watching Biden, I don't know if you saw, the following day, he was at a rally, and he was Mr. Personality and charismatic and said some great lines. But I thought, the people that don't really watch the news all the time, they're not going to see this rally. They're just going to see you. And it was the worst possible light. I mean, I knew it was bad when he walked out, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And they should, because they're supposed to negotiate all this stuff, they should have told him there's going to be a split screen, because when Trump's doing lie, Biden's trying to process it all, and he looks like an old man who's out of touch. He's like, I thought, your handlers made a terrible mistake. If you were going to do this, they should have just said, go out there and give them hell, and go with your, I'm Joe from Scranton, and yeah, the border's a mess, but we're going to get it fixed, and nobody, stop saying nobody wants to kill babies. We want to give women the choice. We want to trust women. Just don't get down. They say don't fight with a pig because you'll just get dirty, and the pig likes it. And it would have just been better if he had just come out and before what won his debate, because even Barack Obama was a great orator, but he lost his first debate against Romney, and it was a kick in the pants for him. And the next time he got some momentum for it. The problem with Biden is, yeah, he is old. They're both old, and you're talking about having this job until January of 2025. Yeah, that's concerning. I don't know what the answer is. All I'm saying in relation to this is what I want you to hear. If Biden had just come out and looked like he felt better, Like, go take a couple of days off. Don't even watch the news. Go sit in the sun. You got a cold. Let the, get yourself relaxed and feeling better. Because he was so full of facts and figures that he's getting, he's stumbling over himself. The man had a stutter, even in his, so he has to deal with that. It was just, I can't say the word that I used. I said dumpster fire, but in my living room I said a different word that ends with show. Because that's what it was. But I thought he's just not recovering from it. And before what won the debate is when, because this time they said, turn off Trump's mic when it's not his time. I honestly think they made a mistake. It would have been better just let him do his stuff of interrupting, because what happened before, remember Biden goes, shut up, man. And when he did that, that was a human response. And I thought, yeah, shut up. Let him finish talking. What's that got to do with this? This is what I want you, if you didn't hear anything else I said today. Because I'm not predicting what's going to, I don't know what's going to happen with the race. I don't know what should happen. Do I have anxiety about it? A lot. And the best I could think of is we've survived other things. So whatever's going to happen, whoever's going to be elected, there's other things that have worked out that I don't know how they worked out. What's that got to do with me and this about unplugging? Hear me if you don't hear anything else I said today. Instead, well, let me say this. What was her name? Teacher. She passed a few years ago. I loved her. What was her? I can't remember her name. I quote her a lot. No. Anyway, her famous quote was, I don't fix my problems, I fix my thinking, and my thinking fixes my problems. There are things that you're dealing with right now that instead of you spending all your time trying to fix it, you need to spend more time on yourself. Dispenza says the universe doesn't respond to what we want as much as it responds to who we are being. Let me tell you, when you get under a situation, even if it's fully, we could hear your story and go, I see why you're under it. Let me tell you what, when you get under it and it starts affecting your demeanor and your outlook and your health, you're in trouble. Because it starts attracting the vultures of life. Comes circling you because you look like you're about to be a carcass. That's why it's important to put a smile on your face. If you have to fake it till you make it. It's important that you do stuff that makes you happy. Stuff that makes you feel good. Well, you don't understand all my problems. I'm telling you, if you'll fix you, most of your problems will resolve themselves. Your problems, the negative things, are feeding off of your negativity. You're empowering your problems. You're injecting them with steroids because it's like I think I said to you last week about life not being fair. If you're fighting a street fighter and you say, you're not playing fair, that doesn't make the street fighter back off you. If anything, they find your vulnerable point and they hit harder. They play dirtier. So the worst thing you can ever do is let yourself get in victim mode. And unfortunately, the reason I use this debate it's like he fell into a trap for all the people that say you're an old man with dementia. And I don't know. Look, I know the experience I have with my dad and that sometimes I have with my mom now. If there is dementia, it's not like flipping on a switch. Like with my dad, sometimes he would just say stuff, I think, man, he's totally gone. He's mentally gone. And the next time I'd see him, I think, I must have imagined that. He seems fine. It doesn't, and then, little by little, he finally, it was clear. But initially, it wasn't like somebody's just all together one day and then boom, they're not. So I don't know. It will be interesting to observe Biden the next. I don't know. Does he have dementia? I don't know. I ain't that jazzed about either one of them, frankly. But my point is, he lost that not because he did, because you can't bringing facts and figures to rebut Donald Trump is ridiculous. It doesn't. His audience doesn't care about facts. It'd be better to, because this is what unfortunately happened. Trump came across as more vigorous and together. So that if you were uninformed, you would think, oh, well, that guy seems more equipped for it. Because Biden's done some great things that he hasn't communicated well. So a lot of people don't know. Again, this is not a lecture on political debates. I'm saying this is something that just happened recently and you're all aware of it. Learn from that. Because here's the thing. Your problems are challenging you to a debate. Do you hear me? Your problems are challenging you to a debate. So on the stage of life, you need to get some rest. Get to feeling better. With all the jokes he was making about, that Trump was making, they're going to give Joe cocaine. They should have given him something. Give him a vitamin B12 shot or something. I think he was so focused on showing everybody they don't have to give him anything. They should have given him something, drink a cup of coffee, something. It was a mistake. The whole thing was a mistake. It was a mistake from the get-go. It should teach us all something. But if you are in a debate with life or with your problems, if you come out full of self-pity and victimization and nobody knows the trouble I've seen, I can tell you right now, you're going to lose the debate. Your problems are going to win. Life's going to win. There's something holy about being happy and feeling good and learning to say, if you can, learning to say no to things that you know are going to sap your energy. Avoiding conversations that you know where they're, if you've had the same conversation with somebody several times and it's always ended up that same way, you're the sucker if you keep signing up for that same conversation. Because you're like, this is the part I say this, and then you say that, and then I say this, and you say that. Nothing's going to, they're going to double down. Nothing's going to change. When Jesus said, agree with your adversary quickly, he was talking about time management. He was saying, there's some people you're not going to convince, no matter, but I've got a point. No, your point, it doesn't matter. I'm coming to a close, I promise. But I told you this a few years ago. This was just a matter of principle. I was coming down Monroe Drive, which I've been driving down since I was 16. I took a right on 10th Street, right on red, that I've been doing since I was 16. A cop pulls me over. I'm like, why did you pull me over? He said, you turned right on red. I said, right. He said, you can't do that. There's a sign. I said, since when? I went back there and looked at it. I said, I don't see, you could not see it. And sure enough, they had changed it after they put the belt line there. They changed that. I didn't know that. I didn't even think to look because I could drive that with my eyes closed. So I said, you know what? This is a matter of principle. You cannot see that sign. I'm going to go to traffic court, and I went out there, took pictures. I asked other people, I said, tell me something. Do you see that sign that says no turn around? No. But I had witnesses. Everything. Well, I got there. There's no way for that. All they ask is, are you pleading guilty or not guilty? There was no mechanism for me to say, no, I'm not doing either. I want to show somebody that you can't see this sign. Guilty or not guilty. The more I tried to say, no, I don't want to make a plea. I want to show you, sir, we have to assign an attorney to you if you're going to plead. I mean, I finally there's no way I could do it. I thought, I just paid the fine. Because they didn't care. They didn't care. I said, does it matter that I was given a ticket for a sign that you can't see? Sir, guilty or not guilty? Is there a third option? No, there wasn't. I could still be in there. I thought, this is what I'm going to take away from this. Next time I'm going to look at the signs, look extra hard. Is right on red okay? Because it was $300. Heck yeah! Let me I could give you a tour of places around Midtown. Don't turn there. That's $250. Don't do that. That's $300. You know how I know? Because I paid them all. That was it. Chris Rock said one time that certain choices you're about to make. He said an old black man comes out of nowhere and said, "Don't do that. That's 5 to 10." He's like, "This is a guy that's already been there. Like, don't do that one." My point is, sometimes you have to say there's no mechanism for making your point. Sometimes you just have to go ahead and say, in all these things, I'm more than a conqueror. Even the things that I'm clearly was right about and they were wrong about, it doesn't matter. What matters, I don't want to say the best revenge is living well, because I think revenge is aiming too low, but my point is, I would nearly say feeling good about life, if it's not more important than prayer, it's as important. Because even if you're even praying from a victim mentality, and I know God told Moses, the cry of my people have turned to come up before me. I understand that whole thing. Whoever calls the name of the Lord will be saved. What I'm saying is, you're the thermostat of your life. You have to stop being the thermometer. You have to stop reflecting what's going on, and you determine it. That's why saying tomorrow's going to be a good day, just go ahead and say it and act like it is. And guess what? It'll be a good day. And you can spend all this time praying for stuff. You can save a lot of time if you'll just get yourself together and have your attitude in gear. And you say the word. You put out what we used to call in the faith movement the solid front. You put out the solid front. Your confession is a solid front. And the circumstances, the universe bends toward who you are being. So what's my point of this? Letting it be is taking your hands off of it and you being you. And stop walking around with your feelings hurt all the time. I've had people say such horrible things to me. You can't even, if I were to tell you, you'd be like, there's no way people say. Believe me, they have. That's why if you say something negative to me now, if I look glazed over, it's because I am. I'm like, baby, you know how much stuff I've heard? Like, people say, have I offended you? But you'd have to do so much. Like, the meter hasn't even, my capacity for being offended is so different. And that's because I'm a pro. You think you're the first person that said that? Please. That's why I got to this. I think this is when my hate mail finally stopped, because I was getting to where I was wanting to correct some people's hate mail and say, "This isn't even going to get my attention." Let me show you. Let me send you some samples of some stuff that'll keep you up at night. This is nothing. I could put this in a tattoo and wear it. But when you get strong, life starts treating you like you're strong. Let's all stand. Let the weak say, I am strong. Did you get anything out of this today? Now, if you go out of here and say all he talked about was politics, you're a liar. It was not political what I said. I was talking about a thing that we just saw happen, and I think it's relevant to how we are all living our lives. If you heard anything but that, you need to get your hearing checked. Would you play the outro, please, and I'll speak a blessing over you.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give anytime using any smartphone. Text the amount you would like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishinthenow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
If you have a check, make it to JESM. If you have cash, just pay it forward. What were you going to say?
It's a joke, but I was going to say, now what I heard Trump's the devil. I ain't going to lie about it, because I've already preconditioned myself to know he's the devil. And the truth always does make the devil mad.
That came from Eddie Sellers, not from me. If you're listening to the podcast,
Because she knows it's the truth.
if you're listening to the podcast, that was Eddie Sellers from the city of East Point who said that. I just speak to your ability to feel good and to be happy and to be rested and to stop worrying about stuff and to stay positive and be proactive and enjoy life. Give us this day our daily bread means enjoying every day. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you got problems, welcome to the world. Everybody's got problems. Stop being under all the stuff. And you're the head and not the tail, above only and not beneath. Feel like it, think like it, talk like it, act like it. Get strong, and life will respond to you. The joy of the Lord is your strength. You are strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Amen. I love you. See you next week. Peace.